Keema paratha is one of my favourite snacks. It's a great lunch with a bit of yogurt and pickle. It's so delicious. This is my language. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you the making of the keema paratha. The keema I've made separately. There'll be links underneath to show you the recipes for that. There's a few different recipes. But for me, this kind of paratha I'm going to do with a blend of flours. So a cup of atta flour and a cup of plain flour. So I've talked about this before, but basically plain flour and atta flour have two different qualities. And atta flour is quite nutty, it's a whole wheat flour. These flours all have gluten, so it's not gluten-free. But atta flour has a little bit more stretch than plain flour and a bit more of a dense taste. So plain flour is very light. It creates space. If you think about the ways in which plain flour is used, it creates structure, but it also retains an openness. And so all the flavors you put into that dish, be it a cake or a flatbread, are given room to express through the plain flour. So that's why I do the tiering of the flours. I like the nuttiness of the atta and the weight of it, but I love that clear horizon aspect of taste that plain flour brings. So you just mix these together. It's a really simple cook, cook in quotes. We're going to use a few different salts. The keema is complete as it is. So the keema is the lamb mince that's spiced with a traditional Kashmiri masala. But I am going to add a little salt for the dough, because if I don't, the weight of the dough will actually muffle some of the masala in the meat. So I've got half a teaspoon of sea salt, half a teaspoon of pink salt, and a pinch of flaked salt. A little bit of chili, a half a teaspoon, and a half a teaspoon of ajwain or carom seed. If you don't have that, you can use cumin seed. But what that carom seed and the chili brings is a bit more character to the paratha itself. So we use a little bit of ghee just to keep the dough nice and malleable and the end result a little rich. It's just a drizzle in there. And then the easiest way to actually bring this together is to put the mince straight into the flour mix and mix this in. I'm going to bring it together with some hot water. Yeah, sure. But basically what we're doing now is just bringing it together. So hot water just to bind. You want it to come together, put it on the bench here, not be so sticky that you can't sort of roll it. If you need a little bit more water, which I do, you can just actually put it on your hands. Just to finish bringing it together. Obviously, you start with a clean bench, and when that's done, you actually do need to let it rest just for a few minutes, either under a wet towel or a bit of cling film. I'm going to use a damp, clean towel because it's better for the environment. You just want to leave that for 10 minutes, just as you would any dough that you're working, just to rest a bit. It will work without it, but it won't be as soft to the bite. And this is such an opulent flatbread that tenderness of the dough itself actually contributes to the richness of the experience. So it's worth that 10 minutes if you can. So we've come back to this, and when we take it off, what you can see and what I can feel is how much stretchier this is. Now that's important because we've bedded the mince into the actual dough. If the dough's crumbly, as we roll it, the mince is actually, or the keema is just going to fall out. This is kind of perfect. So we're going to break this up into evenish pieces. It's pretty big. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now paratha is a little bit of a process, and we do need a little bit of ghee. But what we're going to do is just roughly roll the first time. So because it is a bit sticky, I can flour the whole paratha in the flour bucket like that. A little bit on the bench. My special smaller rolling pin. I'm going to have a 2-step rolling process. So this doesn't have to be pretty at this point. And then a little bit of ghee. And then fold it up. And I'm going to do that with all of them. So paratha like this, or flatbread like this, is a lunch in and of itself, with a little bit of achar or pickle, fresh cucumber and onion salad, squeeze of lime. Or if you go somewhere in a car or on planes, in India particularly, you'll see everyone with their like bags of little tinfoil wrapped, or little tiffin paratha to have as a snack. I guess it's like the Indian pasty, or pasty as they say in the UK. So you're using the flour or the paratha as a container for, in this case, keema, but sometimes aloo, so spiced potato, methi, so fenugreek leaf, rajma, red kidney bean. The commonality is that you make your sabzi spiced and complete, and then you sort of just mixing that through the flour. All right, now more ghee. You can do this folding, rolling, ghee, layering technique like a couple of times. So basically through that process of folding and layering ghee in, we're just creating layers that you can see here into the bread. And those layers work like a puff pastry, and they make the paratha a little fluffier. I do just try and round them off a little bit so they make a bit of a pretty shape. You want it to be not too thick, not too thin, almost like a crepe kind of a weight. And how you roll it, I always say to the boys and my sons when I'm teaching them, is you're not sort of rolling back and forth over it, but you're rolling from the middle out and then back across, and I keep flipping it, and that way it's not going to stick to the bench. Might just do 2 of them, and the rest is that you can layer them between baking paper and put them in the freezer, and then whenever you're ready to eat them, you just take them out and put them straight on the tawa. You don't want to see inside my freezer. All right, so what we're getting at, this is a tawa. I have a couple of different, some are flatter, some are more convex, concave, I think. If you don't have a tawa, you could use a crepe pan. If you have like a teppanyaki, I used to have a stovetop with a teppanyaki plate, and I would use that. If you have a griddle. Frying pans are hard to use because you really do have to take it to a very high heat and you'll burn the base of the frying pan. They have to get really hot. So what I do is I put a little bit of ghee as well on the paratha, and on the back side as well. And basically I'm just waiting till I know it's browned. And that's ready. It's nice if they are a bit crispy. It's like an Indian meat pancake. See all the ghee? The ghee is what makes it extra. Never too much ghee. Serving suggestions: yogurt, pickle, and then taste test. And just try without anything. Wow. The ajwain that we put into the flour really comes through. And the keema's there, and there's the nuttiness of the atta and then the lightness of the plain flour, so it has quite a lot of texture. But it's really rich and hearty and filling. Parathas are made as like a meal in a mouthful, if I can put it that way. Yogurt's a standard condiment with Indian food. It has really strong probiotic qualities. And then the pickle satisfies that drive for the regional Indian palate, which is very much about sort of pungent, funky, salty, strong flavour. Mixing it in with that keema paratha, it's really... This is my language. Saturday lunch. This is what we used to eat growing up.